Hi team. Very good morning and good evening all. So let's get started, guys. Okay. So let's continue on our like the core cloud components, right? And then we'll subsequently move to our data engineering components that we are supposed to look forward, right? So we were looking into yesterday the comparison between the Azure cloud platform along with the GCP cloud platform, right? In terms of uh, the hierarchical comparison, the hierarchical way of accessing the resources, right? With respect to the Azure and GCP, we have almost a similar relation, but okay. My audio is low. 1 second. Is it better now, guys? Okay, fine. Automatic adjust to microphone. Okay. Okay, guys. Let me move forward. We were understanding about the hierarchical way of accessing the resources in GCP, right? It's pretty direct, like as we were discussing. In Azure, we have something called subscription and followed by resource group. Then we have the resource account or workspace or studio has to be created. Then only we can access the actual resources, right? Otherwise, we can't able to access in Azure. The similar way, in order to perform operations in GCP, we need to, ignore that subscription and resource group and all, both are combined together in the name called something like project. So as a very first activity, what we have to do, as I was showing you yesterday, if you are a user or if you are added as a group of user in a group, you have been added as one of the user. If you have a group account or if you have an individual user account, or if you are falling under an organizational account in a company you are joining and you have an at the rate of your organization.com, or you have a service account, there are around four types of user accounts that is available in GCP. These four are kind of, we call it as principles. Okay, four types of principles. The IAM part, which we are going to see next, talks about the security component, which we are going to talk next about. It's going to bring out the concept of the identity and the access management. In that, there are four types of identity that we have in GCP. As like Azure, what we have service principal in Azure also. We have user account, group account, everything in Azure also. The similar way, GCP also provides different types of user. We call the different types of user in GCP as principals. Rather than user, we call it as a principal. These are all some of the nitty-gritty things that we have comparing with Azure and GCP. Okay, let's leave Azure. In GCP as such, what we do, we have to be onboarded as a user or a group, a user inside a group, or as an organizational user, or as a we have to get the principal the service account created, the service account principal created, which is nothing but we use a password file to access the resources of Google Cloud programmatically, like a service principal or service account what we had in or service principal what we had in our Azure, right? This kind of way we can able to manage the security or manage the user access and all to our cloud platform. So what we were doing yesterday is we were just understanding how do I go and access the resources of our Google Cloud, maybe as a owner. When I log in as a owner inside the Google Cloud by going to console.cloud.google.com, I could able to log in as a owner, as a owner of this entire organizational account. I can go and create an organization. I can go and create folders, which is like we can create a tenant. We can create a inside the tenant management group, and then inside the folder we can create project, which is nothing but subscription and resource group. Then we can go and access the resources without creating a resource account or resource workspace or resource studio and all. We can directly go and access the resources, which is pretty direct in Google. Where if I want to create a bucket, I'll directly go into our service called Google Cloud Storage Service or whichever, and I can go and create a bucket and access the bucket content inside the Google Cloud Storage. So this is a pretty direct activity what we can able to perform in our GCP platform, which is simplified. The hierarchy of accessing the resources is simplified. So that is the first part of our understanding yesterday what we did. The only catch here is post I create a project inside my organization, inside my folder as an administrator, what I will do, I'll go and enable the resources inside the project. If I basically not all the resources are enabled inside the project when I create. If I'm going to onboard some user to go and access my project, first of all, I'll go and like enable certain resources, certain services in my project first of all. For example, if I created one project, inside the project, if somebody is trying to access Google Cloud Storage, or if somebody is trying to access like Spark cluster, they'll not be directly allowed to access the Spark cluster until the administrator enable it. So those kind of security mechanisms and all we will take care. See, basically in Azure, what an administrator will do, post he create a subscription, post he create a resource group, he'll go and enable that resource by adding or creating a resource account or something like a storage account, or the administrator will go and create something like a Databricks workspace or whatever the resources that we are or ADF Studio or whatever he used to create. Then only the user inside that subscription can able to access that resources. Until the resources can't be accessed. Here it is not like we create one wrapper called storage account or what to say, the Databricks workspace or data proc related cluster component and all. We don't create explicitly. What we do, we go and just enable that service very simply. For example, if you consider yesterday, our administrator, our owner, Inceptus, Infort Inceptus is the owner of the this entire cloud project what we created yesterday, right? So we created a project called WD36 management group or whatever the project name that we created yesterday. A folder we created. Inside that folder, we created a project yesterday. What's the name of the project that we created is WD36 subscription WD36 DERG or whatever we created. Data engineering resource group or whatever we created. This is equivalent to subscription come resource group in Azure. But we created here it as a simple project. So the administrator has to do what he had to go to the particular project as a owner, as a owner of this entire cloud platform. What he will do, he'll go and first of all map to that particular project, which project he have created. He had to first of all identify that project, which project he created. So this project he will add a star or he will bring that in the general list actually. First he had to go and enter into the project as even as a owner, right? And what he had to do, if he entered as inside this project, right, he go and try to access some service called maybe a compute engine service. Compute engine is nothing but a virtual machine feature of our virtual machine services of GCP. Like we have in Azure something called a virtual machine as a service, right, where we can go and create computers. Similar way in GCP we have some service called compute engine. Compute engine is nothing but we can create some virtual machines, some computers inside the Google Cloud infrastructure to perform some computation, some softwares or whatever we want to run, we can run there. So under the virtual machine, I'm going to create a virtual machine instance. What it is going to say, Irfan, you have to enable the API. What it is telling, sorry, you can't able to use this compute engine service pretty directly. For this project, first you have to, rather than we create a account in Azure, rather than we create a workspace or a studio in Azure, right? To enable this feature in Azure, we have to do in a GCP enablement of an API service. That means what basically every cloud that you consider in this world have everything exposed as an API, exposed as a web service. So any see that's the reason even Amazon have named their Amazon cloud itself as an Amazon Web Service Cloud. Everything will be enabled as a service in the web which we are supposed to access. So if you consider even Google also, the Google have, you are able to hear me. I know like my power is gone. I'm working in UPS now. Are you able to hear me, team? Okay. So my power is tripped actually. So I got my UPS started. Okay. You might have had a small glitch in between, right? So I did not speak anything in between. Okay. Okay. So let us move forward, guys. So the thing is, here in GCP, rather than we create like a storage account or a workspace or studio or whatever to start enable a service, what we do here is we just go and enable an API. Once this API is enabled in this Google Cloud platform, this can be accessed by the users who is entering into this project in a later point of time. They could able to access this API. Otherwise, they can't. For example, if I'm entering into this Google Cloud platform as a user called Muhammad Irfan or Hoover, if I log in as Muhammad Irfan, if I go and search for the project, subscription WD36, DE, RG, or whichever, right? This is one of the user I onboarded to my project. A new user I'm just bringing to my project. If I go and try to make this user, ask him to go and access the virtual machine that I created or virtual machine service if he wanted to access. He wanted to create some virtual machine or he wanted to use some virtual machine. If you go there, it will say, hey, sorry, this API is not enabled. Ask your administrator to go and enable it first of all. So if the user try to enable it, user is the editor, right? What it is telling, it requires a billing account or ask your administrator to enable the billing, your owner to enable the billing. You cannot enable the billing because you are not a owner. You are not a owner. You can't able to do that. So you have to go and talk to your management team, your owner who is having the responsibility to create or enable a billing. He's a owner account, right? The owner can able to enable the billing. So let him go and enable the billing by showing his credit card or whatever. Let him enable the billing like this. It is telling. So first of all, though I am going to create a project, see the Google has a pretty direct architecture. Don't worry about the organization, folders and all. That's a once for all activity, right? As like Azure also. Don't have two concepts like like subscription and resource group and all. Just go and create a project. That one project will take care of both subscription and resource group and all. Leave that. Then inside that, don't create any account or studio or maybe like workspace or whichever. You don't create. Rather, just go and ask your administrator to enable that particular API, particular service. You just ask them to enable. If you get that enabled, you are well and good to go and use that service. This is the core concept what GCP brings in for us to start use any service, right, in the Google Cloud infrastructure. Right, team? Are you all with me in this particular part, the initial part of understanding how the the resources that we access in the GCP platform has like Azure, right? You can go and compare that by using this web UIs. Like I'll share you guys both up. I mean, like already we have this our Azure based environment that is available already, right? We have already for our Azure Cloud Learn that we have available, right? Azure Core Cloud Components. So this resource hierarchy we already have available, right? Resource group and then the resource account that we create and access the services, right? Here in GCP, I did not bring it into production yet, but I'll share you guys this one, right? So in GCP also we have the similar kind of hierarchical way of accessing the resources that is available. Organization folder, then project, then resources directly we can go and get it enabled and we can access it. Okay, Tim, are you with me in this? Accessing of resources in a hierarchical fashion in GCP. You are all with me in that, right? We did not go to the security part yet. Enabling the users and other concepts, we did not do it. Just I was showing you. As a owner, I'll create an account and I'll go and enable some services in a project. Then the users who were I'm onboarding, they can able to use that services. That's a pretty direct thing I was just bringing in. Right? I did not show you how to do that. right? But just I was telling you this is possible. So let's come out of this Inceptus, Infort Inceptus. We'll go with our other account that we are currently using. Okay. So I have some other account called Inceptus Data Science 2 or whatever I'm just using to perform all the operations. So here what we do, we go and create one project. This is the one we are going to use for performing all sort of operations. So I will go and as a owner, here I have a billing account already enabled. So I have already a billing account enabled, right? You can see here. So I'm supposed to pay that bill and all. This is a paid account I'm using. It's not a free account. So you guys can create a free account. As I told, I'll share you that video today. I'm just trying to find that. Along with that, whatever that screenshot that I have, I'll upload the content in the drive. This Google related content, the Google Cloud related content, the PPT in our drive I will enable. So you guys can go and create a free account. But this is already my free trial account is over on March itself, and I'm using it for April, May, and all. By paying this amount and all, like continuously. So this month I made to pay. It is stopped for some reason, it seems. So the thing is like I'm using this account only for just enabling our database. You guys are using the database, right? For that purpose, let it be. I'm continue using this account until I also going to create one more free account. That is a different story. So let us use until that period of time this particular cloud account until I create a new free account. Okay. So what I had to do primarily, right, to start with our learning, all I had to do is first of all I had to go and either choose a project. Basically, when you create a free account, right, in Google, it will create one project by default. You don't have to create a project. It will automatically have one project created called my first project or whatever. The project ID is something like this. It will automatically create a project ID, some number based, some unique project ID it will create. But what you can do is, post you enter into your Google Cloud platform, you can go and click on this project very directly. First of all, you can go and create a new project. That project name can be something like weekday 36 project, something like this. We are creating WD36 project or whatever the project name that you want, you can create. So data engineering and AI 2026 project I'm just creating. Data engineering and AI 2026 is a project that I'm creating, and the project ID is the one which is unique. This is the name just I'm creating. The project ID is going to say what? If I'm going to maintain some unique name for or unique ID for all the projects that you guys are going to work with. So I'm creating one common project called DEAA, Data Engineering and EAA 2026 project I'm just creating. We can't change this ID later, but the name can be modified later, renamed later. That is fine. And I'm associating that with no organization. I don't have inceptus.com organization. And also I'm associating that with no organization. I'm just directly creating a project without having any other hierarchical components available. By default, Google will offer us no organization. Use this and go. So just to create one project by clicking on top of there is a project window over here, right? You can click on that window and create one new project. That's it. Because since you are a owner, you have created an account with your owner account, so you are well and good to go and create a project. Suppose you create a project, what you are supposed to do, you have to choose that project. Inside the project only, we are going to do every operation. Like how we go and choose the subscription and the resource group to perform all the operations. Similar way, you have to choose the project which you have created for performing all the operations. You can start that project, so it will be available by default. So just go and create the project. That's it. We created the project. What is the first activity you are supposed to do inside this project in order to start use? For example, I want to use compute engine service. First, you have to go to APIs and you have to enable that API. So if I click on the compute engine, on the need basis also, you can get it enabled. So basically, for this project, right, if I'm trying to create an instance, what it is telling? Sorry, compute engine API is not enabled. First, enable that API. Then only you can able to perform any operations in this particular service that you are leveraging. Okay, for this project, it is not enabled, but for the other project, if you consider W47 project that I have already created, if I try to create an instance, it is telling yes, Irfan, I'll allow you to create an instance. A computer you want, you can create. Because this particular project has already the compute engine enabled. But whereas this project is not enabled yet. So this particular resource group is not attached with the service called compute engine service, a virtual machine service. The other subscription what I have, this is another subscription what I have, which I have already created a compute engine resource. So it's equivalent to in Azure we already have one subscription as some service means that service I can directly use. If I don't have that service available in another subscription, I got to go and create that service, right? The similar way we are doing here, just by enabling or disabling the API. So the API I can enable. When I go to this particular service, it will ask me to enable the API. Or what I can do, I can just directly go to my project. What are the APIs I want to enable? I will ask my administrator to say, hey, please go to the API and services and allow me and go to the enabled API and services or whatever. Check for which service has to be enabled. Go and enable it. For example, BigQuery connection API or BigQuery or Cloud SQL API. I want to create some databases in Azure Cloud. Like this, you have a lot of services available. You go and enable those services as per your wish. So enable API and services, you go and click on and enable that service whatever you want. The compute engine service you want to enable, you go and search for the compute engine API and you can go and enable this API first of all. So you will not get an error, right? You can directly go and first enable this API, then you come back and create the compute engine. So let's enable this API. It is equal to what? I'm creating a workspace. I'm creating a account. After we go to a resource group, we add a resource to a resource group, right? That is what I'm doing here equivalently. Done team, right? With the hierarchical way of accessing the resources in Azure Cloud, which is nothing but project, enablement of a service and use the service. That's it. We are going to start use the service. Done team, right? Done with the comparison of Azure and GCP with respect to usage of the services. Team. Okay. I found couple of our other folks have joined today, right? Team. So yesterday, I spent maybe nearly 45 minutes of time to explain about like what we are trying to achieve next. What is our next goal, right? What is our maybe a final goal, I would say, right? And we are not going to spend another like 2 months, 3 months, or 4 months of time for learning. We're going to spend a very short span of time for doing a very quick learning because we already learned everything. We already have a complete content in our hand. We are just going to leverage a learning of something relative, something comparative, right? Very quickly, and including some advanced AI things also. We are going to learn for data engineering requirements, right? So who did not attended yesterday, right? Who is attending newly today? Who are already attended, that is fine. Who is newly attending today, additionally attending today, please go through the yesterday's recording with respect to whatever I have given a level set, right? Whatever the level set that I have defined or whatever the, the roadmap that I have given to our team members, right? Please go through that and try to understand why you had to learn GCP, why we are putting this effort for another one plus month of time, right? That is having a huge an impact in our in finalization of our candidate, our aspiration. Okay, so please go through that case. Whoever did not join yesterday, just go through the yesterday's recording and try to understand like what I'm trying to convey. Okay, fine. So what I did is I enabled the compute engine API. Now it is well and good to go and create a computer. If you want a virtual machine, if you want to create, you can well and good you can go and create that compute engine or whichever very directly, because we added a like a resource inside the resource group. Okay, done team, for your information. Okay, so we'll go and do this exercise later. Just I'm giving you an idea. Okay, what's next we have to go and look forward is the security, right? In Azure also we have the same kind of concept what we have seen earlier, right? We have already learned about in Azure also. We can go and add something like a security concept, right? So what is that? Okay. Yesterday I was just analyzing whether you guys have gone through this uh, videos and other things and all. I found very minimal of you guys have got a chance to go through this. First of all, do you guys know, like I just created this uh, kind of a video studio and all for you to go through with some older discussion or whatever I made in detail with the team with respect to interview related discussion and all, right? Earlier, I have shared this before I was leaving for the trip and all, right? So, did you guys get a chance to go through this page particularly? Are you aware of this page we have? Like already available, team. Okay, fine. So this page is available in our Inceptus Labs site, which I'm in progress of bringing in inside with our access control. This is currently not with an access control, so anybody can go and watch. But however, I will be only providing this to our aspirants alone, because these are all very important contents that we are supposed to preserve, right? So I'll add few more contents also on this, but please spend some time. These are all our videos, whatever we have gone through in the current 2026 time period, right? This is something older one which I have taken in detail, right? This is having more detailed view of whatever we have spent time here, bit lesser, right? So whoever wanted to see some in detail discussion of all the things what we discussed and all, you can see these slides, these videos and all. And I'm planning to add some more SQL and Python related content also with you guys in the upcoming days, in the upcoming weekends and all. I'm planning to work with you guys on 1 or 2 days with Python and SQL related interview discussion. Okay, let us plan for that, and which includes the cloud-based costing and performance optimization, also the best practices also. Okay, we will plan for that. Just since I had this open, I'm just showing you. So let us go to portal. So if you remember correctly, I was creating users and I was attaching users inside the group or whichever, and I was asking you guys to try access the like resources from there if you remember correctly, right? So I was just entering into the Entra. You remember, guys? Groups or users and all. You remember? I was creating and asking to access, right? I just created all the users inside my cloud account, and I asked you guys to go and access, right? The similar way we can go and have here also the addition of users and all. New user, if I want to add, I can add a new user to get attached, right? For example, Stacy, I'm going to add means I can add like this. I can add a user, and I can ask him to go and log into my cloud account and perform some operation by associating the user to a subscription. The similar way in GCP also what we can do. So I'll close my other account and all. Okay, let's consider this account, right? So this account I can go and add some users. So how do I add a user provided with some access to my cloud account, right? This is more related to IAM. Great. So basically, post an owner of a cloud. If I'm forming a new company, I'm going to create a cloud account that I have completed. I create a project. Data engineering and AI 2026 is a project which is equal to subscription and resource group, and resource also I associated. One of the resource that I associated to this project is something called compute engine resource. So inside this project, somebody can go and either access a computer that I have created, or he can go and create a new computer if he want. So how can I go and give an access to him? So what I'll do, I'll go to identity and the access management. This is like if I'm going to the Entra. This is like I'm going to the users and group creation. So I will go to IAM. IAM represents what? Identity and the access management system. So I'm going to the IAM. Inside the IAM, I will go and add a user in the name called principal. Here we don't call it as user, we call it as a principal. So what it is telling, view what are all the principals are available. What are the roles that the principals can be performing. So there are two things we have to consider here. It's the concept of IAM. Identity is whom, access is what. So what type of identity? I'm going to, identify who can do what. IAM talks about what? Identity and access management. Identity says what? Identification of who can do. What sort of operation is the access? Access is controlled by, as Dinesh is mentioning, role-based access control. We'll assign a role to a user to perform that respective role. That is a concept what you have seen in Azure also, right? Similar concept applicable here as well. This is more simplified even. All we have to do is what? Directly it's not even our work, it's administrator work. Just I'm giving all the activity currently we are doing is an administrative work, the platform engineering or cloud engineering, cloud admin people work. But though it is a cloud admin people work, we once we explore this very quickly without spending too much of time, we can speak with the platform team or cloud engineering team or whoever it may be more clearly, like saying, hey, I want to get added as a new user. I want to have a service account created. Can you give me a service account JSON file? Or I wanted to get added in a group account. I wanted to get added in an organizational account. Like this, you can have a better clarity of understanding. That's the reason we are very minimally saying about the concept of at least IAM, the identity and the access management concept. So I don't have any users available currently here, other than the owner, other than one basic service account that is being created to access the compute engine. So compute engine default service account got created already. Let it be. It's two alone is by default created. Now I want to onboard some new users. What I'll do, I'll go and have grant access defined. So let me go back to what is IAM first of all very quickly. Then we'll go and discuss about it, right? So in Azure also we have the same kind of concept called IAM, right? So identity and access management. Who? What are the types of users that we have? The users are all an individual user or a group user or a service principal SP account, or we have managed identity. Without we have any access explicitly defined within that organization. If somebody is there, they can able to access. So the same kind of concept is applicable in GCP also, with all the four types of personas that we have. One is the user principal or a group principal. Service account we used to call it as. We don't call it a service principal, we call it as a service account. And we have something called a domain users. The managed identity is like a domain user. Similar concept we have here as well. Domain or a workspace domain user. So Google account, that means a user account. Group account, group of users belonging to a single mail ID. Service account, rather than service principal, we call it as a service account. And rather than managed identity, we call it as a workspace domain account or a domain users. This is our, the who part, which is nothing but our IAM part, the identity part. And the role-based access control, what type of activity they can perform, on where, right? That is the next part of the discussion, comparing with Azure. In Azure, what we have, the user can play a role of a owner, contributor, reader, or a custom role. We can define any type of roles for the user on any of the resources, management group level, subscription level, resource group level, or a specific resource level. Similar way we have here, it's more, high level, not very lower level as like Azure. The individual user account, we call it as a principal account, can play multiple roles. One is a basic or a primitive role, which is predefined role. Already inside this basic or primitive role, we'll have all the four types of roles. Whatever we have seen here is categorized. He can be a owner or rather than contributor, we call it as an editor. There are four predefined roles, 4 basic roles available in Google. Owner, which we have created the account, right? That is the owner, or editor, or reader, or browser. There is 4 types of basic roles that Google have already pre-created. As like Azure, what I have created as owner, contributor, reader, and custom role, we have owner, contributor, and reader in Google, right? In Azure, right? The similar way we have owner, editor, and reader and browser. There are 4 roles our Google has. As like how Azure has 3 roles here, custom role also Google has. We'll deal about it. Owner, contributor, and reader. Rather, we have Google with owner. Rather than contributor, we have editor. Rather than reader, we have reader. Rather than one more additional role that is called browser also is there. So under the basic or primitive roles, we have this many types of roles available. Then there is something called predefined roles that is available. There are a lot of permissions grouped together to form predefined roles like administrator role, or like compute engine administrator role, or blob storage admin role. Like this and all, there are a lot of predefined roles are available. As like Azure, we have the predefined roles. We call it as a commonly as a custom role or whatever. We have a lot of predefined roles that is available in the Azure side. The same way, we have here also a lot of predefined roles are available. We can go and attach them. We are not commonly giving an access saying like, hey, you are an editor for every resources. We are going to say, no. You are going to act like an editor only for a cloud storage. You are going to act like an editor only for a compute engine. Like this, I can have a predefined role defined, which is bit more granular. And we have something called custom role in GCP also. All these kind of concepts are available in Azure also. We have the same thing in GCP also. We'll go and see this, how it can be enabled. Then where. And in the where component, we can't define the access at the organization level, folder level, and all. At the project level only we can define. Project level we can define. So project level, we'll go and use some command to define, or we can go and give the access directly by in the web GUI also. That we'll go and see. So we are going to understand identity and the access on which resources, where we are going to apply that identity and access, that we can go and compare in the in our next level. We'll go and see that. Okay. So how the authentication and authorization. Authentication means who can go and log in, and he's authorized to do what kind of operations, where, right? He can do a editing operation, or he can do only a read operation, or he can do even the ownership operation. That level of what level of authorization I'm giving to him, and what resources I'm going to give. That defines the IAM. That is the IAM concept overall. So what we are supposed to do, first of all, we need to create some users, or we have to create some group user. We have to attach a user to a group. Anyway, we have to go and manage the users first of all. Or we have to create a service account at least. Assign a role to him. He's he's going to play what type of basic role or a primitive role. Whether he's going to play a basic role. Basic role means he's going to basically become a reader for all the resources, or he's going to only have a reader access for the cloud storages or compute engine or Spark or whichever the environments. The roles I'm going to define. So the principle I'm going to who, what, and where. So what are the permissions that role is going to have? In which services he is going to have the permission? Or I'm going to create a service account, service principal to give programmatic access for an application usage I'm going to give. So this is the core concept we have to understand in the security layer of the GCP. As like in Azure, we have the same kind of security concepts in GCP also. As a primary understanding, we'll go and do this. So organizational hierarchy we have seen here. We were seeing the organization folders or even subfolders also can be created, and project, under the project, the resources are mapped. So how do we go and achieve that? I've given the screenshot for your reference. Whoever is interested can go and follow this instruction to create the project and maybe like manage the project further. So this is the dark themed pages are all hands-on exercise based page, the practice page. Okay, you guys can go and use this, and you guys can go and capture the I'm going to share this PPT right in our drive. So you can go and whatever you understood, right, whatever you have executed, you go and capture yes or no here. For example, Did you navigate on the cloud GUI? Yes, I did that. What is an organization? Organization is nothing but the top level hierarchy. Maybe you can refer our web also, and you can go and give some points over here. Whatever you learned, just it's a matter of like what you learned, you are going to cover here. You are going to just mention here. What is folder? Folder is nothing but a subcategory of our organization, or our division of the departments in an organization is a folder. Equivalent to what? In Azure, management group. Like this, you can go and mention what you have understood. Maybe basically when we go and access any cloud platform, we have to set some billing alerts, or this is applicable in Azure also. You can go to the billing and we can generate some alerts. If the amount is exceeding certain amount, more than certain amount per month, I can set an alert, send a notification to me via the mail to ensure like I am not going to be overcharged. Like these kind of things and all, you can go and capture and explore. Okay. So, sorry guys. So, identity and the access management, right? Um, First of all, we have to deal with how to create a principal. Principal is nothing but a user. In Azure also, we have the same kind of concept, right? The users are of different types, as I was mentioning, right? So first you have to understand that part over here. So how we can go to our, this thing, our Entra in Microsoft, and you go and create the user. The similar way we will go to IAM. We'll go to Identity and Access Management. And already the user mail IDs are available, right? We can go and directly grant an access to that user, right? The user is of 4 types, as I told. The users are of individual user, or a group user, or a domain user, or a service account. We have 4 types of principals or users that is available in GCP. So an individual user, somebody called Muhammad Irfan at gmail.com is an individual user. The group user is, for example, we have a group called WD36 mail group like this we have. What I will do, I'll go to my Google Mail, I'll create a group account, I'll go and create one group ID called WD36 group, DE group. I'll attach all your mail IDs inside that group, and I'll go and say what a WD36 DE group is a group mail ID I'll create. So inside this group, I'll have a lot of other users added. This is another way of creating a user access. Since this group is not already present, it is telling, sorry, Irfan, we don't have a Google account with this group name available. Let it be, it's fine. Then what I can do, I can go with an account called domain account. Domain account is nothing but inceptus.com is a domain. I'm going to give an inceptus.com domain account created. So whoever is belonging to inceptus.com, whoever is attached inside the inceptus.com in my Google workspace, yesterday I have shown, right? We can go to our Google mail ID and we can go and say what? We can go to our Google workspace and we can add users under the domain called inceptus.com domain. I'll go and attach Tracy at the rate of inceptus.com, Najma at the rate of inceptus.com. Like this, I can add any number of users inside my Inceptus to give a mail ID access to them at the rate of inceptus.com. So I'm telling commonly, whoever is belonging to inceptus.com, give them the access. What access I have to still define. This is who, the identity part, and this is an access management part. So identity part, I can go and give domain user, or an individual user, or a group user, or a service principal, service account. Service account, how can I give? I have to first create a service account. Then I have to define that service account over here. That we'll do next, right? That we'll do as a next iteration. So individual user or a domain account or a group user, we can go and add like this. Very simple. And then what kind of access he can do? So there are majorly 3 types of access control that we can define. One is the basic role, right? The basic role, which is nothing but you can go and define the basic roles of 4 roles for these users. One is something called a reader role or browser role, reader role, or editor role or owner role. These four are different types of roles that we can define. That I have mentioned over here with all the documentation. Browser can go and simply browse our web GUI to understand what all the resources are there, what are all the the services that has been offered in this project for us. Like this, I can go and give the access to just browse. This role doesn't have permission to view the resources in the project. The resources in the detail level we can't, this guy can't able to use. So browser is very rarely provided for certain users. The next role is viewer role. Viewer role we have available in our Azure also. And editor role is equal to contributor role in our Azure. It is nothing but a contributor role in our Azure. Like this, we have browser is additional role what is provided in GCP. You can just least bother about it. We don't use very regularly this browser. But viewer, editor or contributor, editor is nothing but a contributor in Azure. And owner is also a role that is available in Azure. The equivalent roles are present here in GCP also. So under the primitive role or on a basic role, there are four types of role that GCP offers. So what we are supposed to do is, we can assign any one of the role to the set of users or group users or domain users by choosing the role here. So I can go to the basic or a primitive role. There are four types of roles are available. Browser have an access to browse the GCP resources. Editor has an access to go and browse, create, delete, edit, everything he can do. Owner is the top level access control, who have a full access, including he can go and add new users. He can go and control the billing account. Everything he can do as a owner. Owner can go and create a new project, or owner can go and delete an account, or delete a billing account, or add a new users to the account. Everything he can do. So owner is like a project manager. Editor is like a a technical lead, or editor is like an architect. Architect does not have an access to control the project billing. Architect does not have an access to onboard a new employee to the project. Manager only have the access to do that. So owner is one level higher than the editor. He can do every operations the editor can do, plus he can manage the billing, he can manage the billing, and he can manage the users also. Viewer does not have any much big access and all. He can go and view what are all the resources and what are all the permissions they have, what are all the users are available in this project. That one level down he can go and check. So this is the access control in which editor is the mostly given access. So if you give an editor access to this Mohammed Irfan at gmail.com and Inceptus at inceptus.com domain users, all of them can go and do editing of any resources inside that given project. So under this project of DAY 2026, these people can go and perform any sort of operations inside this. They can go and edit everything. You can create or edit or update or delete most of the cloud resources belonging to their project. Right? That is what they can do with respect to this editor access that I have given to him. Right? So the editor access that I have given commonly for all the users. Or what I will say, no. For this Mohammed Irfan and info@inceptus.com, don't give an editor access for all the services. Go and give for a specific service. So that is nothing but we have something called this is a predefined or a kind of a basic role that we are offering, right? So we have an option called not a basic or a predefined role, where we are. Here in the web GUI, right? I have given. So rather than going with a primitive or a basic role, right, we will go with predefined roles. The predefined roles means there are already thousands of roles are created. Thousands and thousands of predefined roles are created. What we can do is we can go and assign some of those roles to our users or the group of people. So that I have mentioned over here for your reference. So the basic role is only of four types. Which is nothing but browser, viewer, editor, owner role, and all. Editor, we will be mostly using, okay, to give some common access for a user or for some group of users to do all the edit operation on any of the services. Or I'll go with something called a curated or predefined roles. We call it as a curated or a predefined roles of almost 2000 plus roles that we have available. We have 2000 plus predefined roles that is available that we can go and offer to the user. So something like storage admin or storage editor or storage viewer, blob viewer, storage.blob.viewer. Like this and all, we have the roles that can be very much given in a curated fashion, in a predefined fashion. So rather than I go and add the user with this access, as an editor, what I will do, I'll not give him an editor access as a basic role or whatever. I'll go and give something like a predefined access. So for example, I'll go and search for, do you have something related to the storage? So storage admin access, storage editor access, storage object admin access, like this. All the storage related access, I'll go and check for. Storage object user access, storage, like storage object creator access, viewer access. So this guy only have an access to do what? Only have an access to go and view the objects and their metadata, not the access related information and all, the lower level of access related information and all, he can't able to see. As a storage object viewer, if I give him a role, or if I give him a role of a storage admin role, he can go and have a full access control on the objects and the buckets and the objects present inside the our GCS Google Cloud Storage environment. So this guy is going to play a role of, Mohammed Irfan is going to play a role of a storage admin. Leave this inceptors.com. And the Mohammed Irfan is going to play a role of a compute engine admin role also. Maybe I'm going to add him as a compute engine, compute admin, or compute editor. He can go and create or perform some sort of operations on the compute engine service, or compute storage admin, like compute operating system operations operating system login user, like this and all compute related access I can give to him. So I have given two access to him. I'm not giving him an admin access, an editor access for all the services, only for storage, that is cloud storage. Another one is the computer. So only this guy have an access to perform operations on the two resources, not on all the resources inside this project. That is how I can go and define the identity. Identity is mohammedirfan@gmail.com. Access is storage admin and the compute admin. IAM. It's all about it. Right, team, are you with me? So I have an individual user. I did not give a group user. I did not give an organizational user, domain user. I just provided an individual user with the two types of roles mapped to him. Or I can go and create one more access for the organizational user. The organization, who are all belonging to the organization, Inceptors.com organization, they are having a common access of what? They are all supposed to do a viewing operation. Whoever is onboarded to Inceptors.com should have view access to all the resources what we have. But they could not able to delete or modify or create new resources. They can only go and view. Like this, I can give an access. This is IAM. Or what I can do in addition to that, I can go and say, hey, I'm going to create a service account. That service account user should have access to perform some editing operation or ownership operation or viewing operation or whatever. If I use that service principal programmatically in my Spark program or in any of the other applications. For example, if we go to Azure, we are going to create we are going to perform ADF operation. Azure Data Factory, if I'm going to do a copy activity, let's assume. I don't think we have ADF enabled over here. Any ADF service that we have available here, let it be. Let me check. Okay, let us go to Synapse environment that we have, right? Here, I'm going to access the data from the Google Cloud Storage, let's assume. So if I have to access the data from a Google Cloud Storage, right, I have to ask my Synapse to use the service principal account to go and access the cloud storage related data. So what I'll do, I'm going to develop a pipeline with a copy activity, for example. Maybe I had to go and first of all create the linked service and other things and all, right. Let it. So here I'm going to look for some data belonging to cloud storage, Google Cloud Storage, for example. I'm not going to bring the data from Azure related service. Cloud storage, I'm going to bring this data, for example. So access key and the secret token he is asking, right? So the access key and the secret token, how can I get? This I can go and get by talking to the Google Cloud environment where I will go and ask to provide the service account. The access key is nothing but the service account in Google Cloud. And the access key I had to copy from that service account which I'm going to create. So in order to access the cloud storage related content, I need to get this access key and the secret. So how can I get that access key and the secret for the cloud storage? That is the activity what I'll do. I'll go and create a service principal and I'll give that service principal with the cloud storage access. Then that service principal ID and the token what it generates, some big password file what it generates, that password file content I'll give here. Okay, so we'll do this exercise of connecting with cloud storage subsequently. Just I'm giving an idea. We need that like a service principal account and all to go and access. For example, even for BigQuery, let's assume. You remember, like we did this sometime earlier, right? For BigQuery also, what I had to do, I had to give the project ID or the client ID. The client ID is nothing but our service principal ID. And the client secret, I had to go and either get the file mapped or I had to go and give the client secret with the password values. Whatever I'm just supposed to connect has to be mentioned here. Then only I can able to access the content of the Google Cloud related content from the Azure platform. So we'll do this kind of a multi-cloud connectivity post we get some grip on the GCP platform. Okay. So for that, what I have to do here, creating a normal user who can go and access directly inside the web GUI and perform some operation on my resources alone is not enough. I have one more type of user called the service account user, the service principal or a service account we used to call it as, right? In GCP, in Azure also we have seen the similar thing. If you go here, I gave you guys a service principal SP file, right? I gave you a PEM file. I created a service principal account, right? A service principal account I created for performing role-based access control. And what I did is I provided you guys this PEM file. Using this PEM file, what you guys have did, you guys have connected to our Google Cloud account from your command line. You remember this? Azure login using service principal, service account, right? And what is the service account file? You guys have referred that file, PEM file. It is having an extension of .pem. Similar way, in GCP also what I'll do, I'll create a service principal file and give it to you. You can use that service principal file to log into my Google account either, or you can use that service principal file to go and connect using your Spark or your Data Factory or Databricks or any other tools you can able to connect to my Google Cloud account. So this is one of the famously used methodology in the organizations to go and interact with the resources of Google. So what I'm going to do for that, I'm not asking Mohammed Irfan to directly access my resources. He can, I can give like this also the user access. In general, all the people who are all belonging to acceptors.com have a viewer access for all my resources. If I had to give an access for the group of users, an editor access for compute related component or storage related component, I can give the access individually for them also. A curated access or predefined access also I can give. Or what I can do, I can go and give an access at the service principal level. That is a more better way of controlling the service permissions. So what I'll do, I'll go to something called the service account. We have something called service account here, right? Here I'll go. So where I have captured all this for your reference. If you wanted to try, what you'll do, you'll go to our documentation. You'll try create like a user account and all, the principal account and all. You will try to go and create a service account and all. This is how you can go and create the service account and map the permission to the service account. Everything I have created like a, like what screenshots. You make use of this to try. I'm going to create a service account here. So service account is used for doing what? Represents Google service identity, such as code running, compute engine virtual machines, application app engine running, or system running outside of the Google. This is what we were trying to do. Something running outside of the Google, I want to programmatically interact with my Google Cloud related resources, right? I will go and create a service account and give a service account to the user. So service account name is something like WD36 SA. I'm creating one service account called WD36 SA. I can go and give the permission at the time of creation itself, or later also I can give. So I'm just directly creating a service account pretty directly without giving anything else. Then I'm going to say what this particular service account, right? Whatever just now we created, this service account should be given with some access. What access I'm going to give this service account? He's going to play a role of storage account, storage admin access. So using this service account, if we are going to access the data by using we are going to perform some operation of reading some data from the GCS file system, writing some data into the GCS file system will happen automatically. Or I'm going to add another role related to BigQuery related operation. So I'm going to give a BigQuery access to the service principal. BigQuery admin access, or BigQuery data owner access, or BigQuery user access, or BigQuery connection data viewer, data editor, connection user. Like this, I can give a admin access directly, which comprised of most of these accesses, or I can individually give some access to this particular service principal. So now what this service principal can do, he can go to Azure, he can go and whatever this user ID and the password that I'm going to create soon, I'll mention here using that service principal. So immediately what this the service principal have an access to do all these operations, right? So using that privilege, our Synapse will go and connect with Google BigQuery or Google, cloud storage, and he can able to access the data from that respective environment of multi-cloud. You're able to understand, guys, the rationality behind it, foundation behind it. We'll go and implement this, but just I'm giving an idea. So the service principal is a programmatic user who can go and being used. We can use this service principal ID to go and access from outside environment of this Google Cloud. Within the Google Cloud, if I want to access something, I'll use my username or my mohammedirfan@gmail.com or if I belonging to inceptors.com, I can use. But service principal has an elevated access, which is used in the organization. So what is the benefit of learning this? You will go and talk in your organization with the platform team and all, saying like, hey, can you create a service principal or service account, or give me a service account for this environment where using which I wanted to access the BigQuery data. I want to access cloud storage data like this. You are in a position to ask your platform team. If you ask a couple of our team members, right? Stacy or Sounder or Hoover, right? If you ask, they will say, or even Pakir and all, they will say, yes, I have asked my platform team to provide a service account access or service account key and the password file and all in the form of JSON to go and allow me to access from other environments or from programmatic way of accessing my data set from the BigQuery or from the cloud storage and all. right? Have you guys ever worked on creating a ticket to perform this operation? In organization, definitely we'll be doing this operation, right, guys? So, but if you ask Stacy or Pakir whether you guys have created something like this in your project, whether you guys went and created something like this, or you requested for providing this service principal and the access token for that. Great, Mohan Krishna. Right? But did you guys get a chance to create this kind of service principal or tokens and all for that? Definitely, you might not have. Yeah. So through Jira, we'll give all the information of what level of access that is needed. Whether storage admin access or BigQuery read access or write access, that I will define. But we will not get an access to go and access this IAM page and give all this access and all. Right? We don't create. We don't have an access to create. Right? But we are understanding as an admin also how we create a service principal. Then how we can go and generate a access key and the token for this service principal. How we can go and create a user file and the username and the password for this. So for that, what I had to do is, I had to go to this particular service account, whatever I created. See, I can give an access to the service account first of all. Already I've given an access to the service account, right? I'll go to the service account once again. For this particular user, I'm going to say what? Hey, I wanted to have a access key and a password for this service account. So I'll go to keys. I'll click on the service account, that particular service account what we created. I'll go there. I'll click on the key and I'll add a new key. That is in a JSON format. I'll go and download. As like how we did in our Azure platform. This is not something new. We already did this in Azure also. In Azure also, we can go to Entra and we can create a service account like this. Right? But what we did is we used a command to do that. Azure Active Directory, service principal, create. So we used a command, create a service principal by this way. Then what you do, once the service principal is created, it is creating automatically some certificate file, PEM file. Give me that PEM file. So using the PEM file, I'll go and access. The similar way, we created service account. First of all, we did not create a PEM file. The PEM file is not in a PEM format we have. It is in a JSON format that we have. These formats are used for different purposes. Let's not go deep into it. PPK or PEM or JSON. These are all some extensions that we have. Let's not worry too much on that. Or P12 extension and all. P12 is not used very regularly. So JSON format, I'll go and get this key downloaded once for all. So we use this key later. While we interact with our Azure with GCP and all, we'll use this key later. So what it is telling, Irfan, using this password file, what you have downloaded, this contains a password in an encrypted fashion, you can see. So this is our SSL encrypted password. This is our SSL password, and this is our user ID. So we'll use this password and the user ID to get access from our, Azure or anywhere else. Or we'll directly access this file. We'll give this file to somebody. This file can be located by somebody else to go and access. Anyway, we can get it accessed actually. So this way, how our administrator will create a service account and give some permission to that service account going to the IAM. So this service account have a permission of BigQuery admin and storage admin. So using this service account, if I give this service account a JSON file to you guys can able to interact with my cloud related storage or BigQuery related tables and all. You guys can able to consume from your Azure account or from your local Spark programs or anywhere you can go and consume my data. That is a benefit of what we were so far doing in the identity and the access management. With me in this team. With me in this. So what is a principal? A principal is a user. Right? What are the different types of principals? There are 4 types of principals are there. What are the types of principals? So principal is a user in GCP. Principal are of 4 types. Right? 4 numbers. What are the different types of principals? The principals such as user, or group user, or like domain user, or service account? This is the answer. You guys can fill in here. With me, team, what I'm speaking. This is the one. This is the answer for your the question what I have had here. Create a principal and service account and download the JSON key. Right? Yes, I have did that. Yes, I have completed that. You can fill this information whether you have covered these points and all in this learning. Whether you guys get an answer for all this. Maybe what are the permissions that we have for having certain roles that we have created and all. We can go and see here. What are the different types of roles are there? What are the permissions that role has? For example, the roles comprised of multiple permissions. The roles are of how many numbers? 2000 and odd numbers. Each and every role have thousands of permissions attached to it. Lot of permissions we can have attached to a role. For example, if you see, I have a role called the role title called something like storage. Okay, compute editor. There is one role called compute editor that we have. This compute engine editor role, if I go and click, it will show what all the permissions are associated to this editor. Thousands of permission is associated. Hundreds of permission or thousands of permissions. So a role comprised of multiple permissions. One role can have multiple permissions associated to it. So permission is nothing but the access given, the lower level of access given, that forms role. The one role can contain multiple permissions. Find how many number of permissions are available for a given role. Right? What is a role? Role is an access given for a principal in the form of the collection of permissions. Different types of roles that we have is primitive or basic role or predefined role or custom role. We can create our own role even. It's an interview question. Yes. Yes. Difference between permission and a role. Role is a higher level hierarchy of group of permissions. The group of permissions form a role. Okay, a question is, can we assign permission directly to a principal? No, we can't. We can assign a role to a principal. The role comprised of group of permissions. Okay, so that's how. Yes, it's an entry question in GCP if you go. So first, what we'll do, we'll go and assign a role to a principal. That's where I have given this page. If you see here. So a group of added permission is a role. We can't directly assign a permission to a principal. We can only assign a role to a principal. That is an interview question. So I have mentioned somewhere here or somewhere else I have mentioned that. Okay, guys. So basically, if you understand the role and principal difference or whatever, that is well and good. That's the reason I just wanted you guys to go through this one for your offline learning. Okay, first you go and spend some time on understanding. Did we understand all this terminology in GCP if you are going? Principal, role, permission, right? Principal and then role will come, then permission will come. But permissions forms the role. So that's the reason I given the permission next. But actually, principal assigned with a role. The role is group of permissions. IAM is identity and access management. And what is the purpose of IAM? That is fine. What we already know. So ensure to do this exercise, guys. It's a matter of half an hour you have to spend to do this exercise if you are interested in, right? And here also I given you an exercise of trying with organizational hierarchy, creating a project and like entering into that project, right? The security component of GCP, you can consider this pretty directly. We'll have some more security like firewall and other things that we'll go and see. The bucket access and other things we'll go and see. The third part of our discussion is related to the SDK. So this is the one. In the core cloud engineering, how to access the hierarchy, how to define the IAM, role-based access control and all, the difference between permissions and roles or whatever we have just seen. Third one is how do we go and use SDK software development kit or command line interface to interact with my cloud resources using command line interface, not by using WebGUI. Do you know this case? Do you remember the same kind of concept we have seen in Azure also? So the question is, what is that, I want to interact with the Azure resources or Azure cloud related services and all by using command line interface. How can I do that? Tell me, team. There are two ways we can go and interact. What are the two ways that we have available? In Azure, I want to interact with some resources by using command line interface. Great. We'll use what? Azure Cloud Shell. We can go here and click on the Cloud Shell. So this Cloud Shell will offer us to go and interact using commands like AZ command, Azure command. In the portal itself, we can go with Cloud Shell. This is called Cloud Shell. Or what we can do? We can go to our host. We can go to the command prompt from anywhere, right? And we can go and interact with the Azure cloud resources by using SDK software. We have to first of all download the SDK software. We can connect to the cloud by using PEM key or by using even user account also. AZ login. AZ login, when I do, it will go and ask me to log into the cloud resource. I can give the username here to log in. Or I can use the PEM key also directly to log in. That is fine. Direct user access or a PEM key we can use to log into the Azure cloud. That is fine. So we can use some command called AZ command to interact with the Azure cloud. This is called the command line way of interacting with the Azure cloud from our host, from our edge node or anywhere. Right? We can able to access. This is called SDK way of accessing or SDK. By installing the SDK software development kit in our server, we can able to access programmatically or command line interface based fashion with the Azure cloud. Or in the other hand, we can go and interact with the GCP cloud also in a similar fashion. How we can interact with Azure cloud in a way of command line interface using Cloud Shell or by using SDK software. With the GCP also, I can interact in the similar fashion. How can I go and access? So we will give something like G-Cloud command, Google Cloud command. Right? The G-Cloud command is equal to AZ command. So G-Cloud, when I give, I can able to access with my Google Cloud resources. Great, Pakir. We can use G-Cloud to interact with the Google Cloud, all the services, but there are some utility softwares also available called Google Storage Utility. This is very much specific to Google Storage alone. We can't able to access all the other resources. But G-Cloud is a broader service that we can use for accessing all the cloud resources. So G-Cloud, first of all, I had to go and do an authenticated login. So Azure AZ login that I did, right? Rather, I'll use G-Cloud Auth login. Rather than I give AZ login, I'll give G-Cloud Auth login. So by doing this G-Cloud Auth login, it will ask me to go and log into my Google account. So this, by this way, I can be able to access my Google account. So I got accessed. Right? So here now I got logged into my Google account. As like how I can go here and log into my Google account. I can set my project, G-Cloud, set project and all. We can set lot of commands are there. That is fine. You don't have to worry on those commands actually. But however, you can click on the Cloud Shell here and access the Cloud Shell as like how we did for Azure. In Azure also I logged into the Cloud Shell, right? I can write the commands here, right? Similar way here also we can write the commands. So GS util, what our friend was asking. Google Cloud Storage util, Google Storage util, LS, list the files present in the Google Storage. So in the bucket, there are a lot of buckets that we have created, let's assume. We did not create even a single bucket, right? So if I go and create a bucket inside this project, for example, I'm creating one bucket called bucket one in this particular project. This bucket I want to list and see using command line interface. So it's showing yes, Irfan, there is a bucket is available. So I'm going to say GS util MB, make bucket. The name of the bucket is WD36 bucket 2. So I'm just going to create one container, just like that. I just created a container. I want to list and see what all the containers that I have, the buckets that I have. It's showing bucket 1, bucket 2. So the command line interface way of interacting with the resources of Azure, or GCP. Rather I go to the Cloud Shell and do all these commands, I can stay in my command line interface and I can do all this operation. So all I have to do is what? Google Cloud Auth login I have to give rather than AZ login. So I have given you the commands for your quick reference over here. What are the CLI, understanding the CLI or understanding the CLI commands that I have given over here. First of all, you can log into the Google Cloud by this way. Then you can go and use the service account to log in by this way. If I want to use my service account privilege to log into the Google Cloud, what I'll do, activate service account, the name of the service account, following with the key file. What are the key file I downloaded in my local computer, right? This key file I can use to log into the Google Cloud account. Like we did the same thing for Azure also. I want to list what all the projects are present in my Google Cloud environment. I already logged in into that Google Cloud, right? I'm going to see what are the projects that I have. This is, since I logged in into my mohammedirfan@gmail.com account, I have already lot of projects created and used under mohammedirfan@gmail.com. Like this, we can list and see what all the projects are there. Which project I want to set. Gcloud config set the project or of which project. I want to target on which project. I'm going to work on which project. Maybe I'm interested in working on DAY 2026 project. So I'm going to say what? Set the project with DAI 2026. Today what we created, right? That one. So now the project is set to DAI 2026. So GS util LS. If I go and see what are the buckets associated to the project, it will show. Just now we created a bucket in our WebGUI and using the command line interface of our WebGUI, we created some buckets, right? That buckets I'm able to see here. The drive I'm able to see here. Though I logged in as Mohammed Irfan user. What is the user that I have logged in as? Mohammed Irfan. I logged in as Mohammed Irfan user. How can I able to access this bucket, guys? How it is possible? Because I had Mohammed Irfan given with an access of what? If you remember correctly, I was giving an access of Mohammed Irfan with something like a storage admin, right? Great. So you can see here, since Mohammed Irfan is a compute admin and a storage admin, he can able to access. Even I did not log in as, here I logged in as Incept as data science 2 user. Here I logged in as Mohammed Irfan user. Still I'm able to access the bucket. So I'm just going to say GS util RB, remove bucket of this bucket. I'm not interested. I'm going to remove it. Since I'm a storage admin, I should be in a position to remove this bucket. So now that bucket is lost. Since Irfan is a storage admin, he have a privilege to remove the bucket by using commands. So what we do in the organization, even as a data engineer, also we if we have an access to play, like a storage admin activity, we can go and issue the commands and all to perform these operations. We can use command interface like this or Terraform kind of tool to perform this kind of management operations and all. So we are connecting all the dots. We are going and accessing a project. So if you see here by doing a simple operation of configuring and setting the project, I'm just telling what I'm entering into this particular subscription, this particular resource group. I'm going to access all the resources that I can access. That's what we have seen, the hierarchy of accessing the resources in Google we have seen here. I logged in as a user because of I have an IAM. I have a user called Mohammed Irfan who have an identity and access management created to play a role of a storage admin role. Then, being having the privilege of storage admin, I'm showing you what is the permission that I have to do on my buckets. I can do a read operation. I'm a reader because I'm an admin, so I have a reader access even. Or I can play a role of a writer access. I'm deleting a bucket even. Right? IAM, principal, concept of principal, the individual user, Mohammed Irfan is the principal. Or hierarchical way of accessing the resources in Google Cloud. Usage of SDK software to go and interact with the Google Cloud. How do you go and install this software in your environment? Just go and use this. How to go and interact with the SDK software. What is Google SDK? Everything I have given as a documentation over here. In addition to that, you have to go and download SDK of not for Linux, for Windows, right? So you can go and download the software from here. Install Google Cloud CLI. It will show you like whether you want to install it in Windows or in Linux or MacBook or wherever. Linux or wherever. Download the installer software. Click on installation. It will go and install the Google Cloud CLI software in your local computer. Using which you can go and do first of all what? I given the documentation over here. Do first of all the G-Cloud auth login. Log into the Google Cloud account. If you want to activate the service principal that I have shared, you can use this also. So when you log into your Google account, when you go and activate my service account, you can access your Google account resources and my service account privileged my account resources also you can able to access. So you are logging into your account. Kumaran is logging into his account. What Kumaran can do, if Irfan share the JSON file of my account, Inceptus Data Science 2 account, if Irfan share to Kumaran, he can go and use this key file to access my account resources also. So this particular service principal have an access of what? Have an access of BigQuery admin means Kumaran can able to access my BigQuery related tables from my account even, staying in his account. That's the power of using service principal. Right? That's what we have tried in our Azure platform earlier. You remember, guys? We did the same thing in Azure. So that's what I have mentioned over here. I want to list what all the projects are available. I want to set a particular project, set a particular region, particular zone. Again, we have to revisit this region, zone, all the compute-related resources and all. What is the configuration that Kumaran have set in his environment? So, add an IAM policy for the particular project for the particular user, what role he wanted to define. For example, rather than going to the WebGUI IAM and click on what permission I want to give to a particular principal, I can go and define that here as well. Add a principal called alias at company.com or mohammedifan at inceptus.com. Give him a role of a compute admin role. Like this, I can go and define the roles by using command line interface also. So how do you interact command line interface using in Google? How the resource hierarchy, how the command line interface, how the security and IAM works. This is the part what you have seen so far, guys. With me? With me in this team? Right? I'm just going a bit fast because we already know about this in our Azure also. It's all about like we are trying to understand one major thing is what? Azure or GCP, whichever the cloud service you go, right? All look similar. Only thing is you have to understand the core concept, IAM or hierarchical way of accessing the resources or SDK. Using SDK, we can interact with the cloud resources using command line interface. Some of these nitty-gritty concepts only we are understanding. We are not understanding anything as a new concept. All are we know. Maybe command varies, the environment varies, the way how do we interact varies, but the terminology varies. There we call it as users, here we call it as principals. There we call it as a service principal, here we call it as a service account. Here we call it as I'm creating a service account. But in Azure, we call it a service principal. The principal means a user. That's what we have to understand, basically. Right? So, for your practice, install and log in. Refer our page, refer our site. I'll share you that site URL. Refer our site and do some of the commands and all whatever I have given you. Right? I've given you the commands over here also for your reference. How do we use the service account or how do you go and log out of your account? I just logged in using Mohammed Irfan or whatever, right? I want to log out of my account. Now the G-Cloud Athla, I came out of my account. I came out of logged out of my account. Okay, so it's all about our the access control, guys. So what's next in our the security? What's next in our radar is understanding of storage and understanding of network and compute to complete this core cloud components, right? So storage we are already aware of in our Azure also we are already aware of the storage concept. So storage concept talks about what? Hey, we can go and create a drive kind of environment in Google or in Azure or in AWS or anywhere. We can create folders inside that, files inside that, and place our data in any large scale volume that we wanted. That is the storage concept in general, right? In general, a Google Drive kind of environment I needed for storing and retrieving my data related to my big data, related to any other data set that I needed. In a cloud, in a scalable fashion, I want to store any large volume of data. That is the purpose of the storage. The Google Cloud Storage is a service. In GCP, we have only one service that is called Cloud Storage Service. In Azure, they differentiated the service in two aspects. One is the blob and another one is ADLS. But here we don't have the complexity of managing two different resource services. We have only one service called Google Cloud Storage Service. Cloud Storage Service. So in GCP, we have the cloud storage service itself can play a role of both the blob storage or even an ADLS storage, the hierarchical namespace based storage. It's all about the option that we have available to enable or disable that we'll deal. Okay, so that will go and deal, but I'll just take you guys to the cloud storage related service. Google Cloud Storage is a software as a service platform. I mean, it's a software as a service model. What they follow, what they say is, hey, Irfan, we give you the software, we maintain the infrastructure, we maintain the platform. All you have to do is what? Just use some commands or use some way of writing or reading the data from our cloud storage location. That's it you have to do. So here in Google Cloud Storage also, the similar architecture that we have as like Azure, whatever the architecture that we have seen in Azure, whatever the learning we already made in Azure, it is applicable pretty directly. Right? The Azure uses object storage. GCP also uses object storage. In the ADLS or blob, whatever the feature that we have in Azure, the similar feature is available in GCP also in a single service called cloud storage service. So all the data stored in the underlying storage is in the form of object only. Anywhere you go, ADLS you go, or blob you go, or GCS you go, the underlying data will be in the form of single object. One single file will be created with all the associated data, associated attributes, or IDs or metadata. Everything will be stored in the form of a single object in GCP or in Azure, anywhere, because GCP or Azure is not a block-based storage layer. It's a object-based storage layers only. Whatever the architecture that we are seeing over here, when you go and store some data, retrieve some data, it goes with load balancer, goes with API server. Metadata storage layer will be maintained, and using the metadata storage where the folder files are present, it will go and locate the data from the blob storage. Or directly a blob can be stored and retrieved from the underlying blob storage also without using the namespace, the hierarchical namespace, as like Hadoop and all. Both tools or both clouds are allowing us to do that activity. The Azure has bit more complexity of maintaining that as two different services. But whereas GCP says, what I have only one service called Cloud Storage Service, Google Cloud Storage, GCS or GS service, where you can directly go and do what? Don't do anything else. Just enable that service called Cloud Storage Service in your project. Go and directly access the Cloud Storage Service, create the bucket. Bucket is equivalent to what? Container. Inside the container, you create folders and subfolders and store the data, or directly push the data into that folder. Pretty direct hierarchy. If you want to enable the hierarchical namespace, you can enable. If you enable, it will become a like a ADLS kind of file. If you don't enable hierarchical namespace, it will become a normal blob kind of file system. Like this, the Google says, in a single service, we are enabling all the things, simplified fashion. So to understand basically what is a bucket is the namespace that we can use for identifying or are uniquely identified with the complete, with the data that we are going to place in the cloud storage. For example, the Google Cloud Storage is a service under the Google infrastructure where we will go and create a bucket primarily to categorize our data. Bucket is a kind of a container for categorizing our data set. So I'll create a bucket called the retail bucket. So all the retail data will be placed inside the retail bucket. Inside the retail, I have store data and marketing data. So I'll do what? I'll create folder called store folder or marketing folder. So under the main bucket, we'll have a subfolders created. Under the folders, we'll place the objects in general. The similar concept what you have seen in Azure also is applicable here. If I enable hierarchical namespace for the bucket, then it will become ADLS. If I don't enable hierarchical namespace for my bucket, then it will become blob. That's the only difference. We have for a bucket when we create, by default, it is not enabled with the hierarchical namespace. If you go and check here. If you see here, there is some feature called hierarchical namespace. Hierarchical namespace is rather than storing the bucket with a flat hierarchy, can optionally create a file system like hierarchical namespace, optimized for data intensive workload, for especially for Spark kind of tools and all. We can go with this HNS enablement, like how we did for our our Azure. Right, the similar concept is applicable here as well. Hadoop-based data processing, Spark or Hadoop-based data operations, file-oriented workload processing. Because we wanted to not maintain n number of metadata for storing each and every file. We wanted to maintain under a folder, this many number of files are there. So by that way, for AML, for Spark or for Hadoop-related operations and all, this HNS is a best thing to support. Right? There are some restrictions are there while using HNS. We'll deal about it. That's not a big deal. Right? So we can find here a bucket we have just created. How do we created a bucket? All we have to do is go and access the cloud storage service, search for cloud storage service, create a bucket. We don't have to put any other effort. Whereas in Azure, we have a lot of iteration we have to do, lot of clicks we have to make to go and create a container rather than bucket. Then we can go and inside the container, we can access the storage browser and access the data, right? Here we can directly go and access the buckets, click on the bucket and access the data inside the bucket. We can go and upload the data or download or manage a lot of other things on the data, permissions, configurations, delete protection, lifecycle rule, right? Some of the other observability like monitoring of the buckets and other things are there. Let it be. We'll go and deal about these buckets now. Keep following me as like how what we have in our Azure, we have the similar concept in GCP also. There are some nitty-gritties between the Azure and GCP. While Azure says you can upload per upload, you can upload how much amount of data in a single upload in Azure. Initially it was 5 terabytes. Then later it increased to how much? It is increased to how much case? Do you remember? No? In Azure, I'm asking. 190 TB. Great. 190 plus TB. Here, it is still 5 TB only. In a single upload, we can upload only 5 terabytes of data in GCP. Still, they are maintaining that same. So, buckets in GCP are containers in, containers in Azure, both are same, which is nothing but a logical container of holding the related objects. All buckets are associated within a project. Inside a project, I have a bucket creator. Bucket name should be in a DNS format for a better purpose of usage. So I'll say what com-inceptus-. It is belonging to Inceptus companies. Bucket like this, I'll create a bucket with the proper naming convention. Maximum of 63 characters it can support. Buckets can be created in any numbers, any unlimited numbers of buckets that we can create. And we have to use the bucket means, right, in order to store the data in structured or in an unstructured format, we have to enable the API service for using the buckets. The objects inside the buckets are immutable. We can't modify the content of the objects of the bucket. Similar way like how Azure also works. We can go and give the access control to the bucket by using the IAM RBAC methodology, or there is one more option called ACL also is available to enable the lower level of access control for the object level. So basically, we can go and define the access at the bucket level, right? If I define an access at the bucket level, if I give the access, then it is IAM RBAC access I'm defining. If I give the access at the object level, then it is an ACL access I'm going to give. So there are two types of access control that we have. Uniform access or IAM or RBAC access we used to call it as. Uniform, which is nothing but IAM. Role-based access control. Another type of access control that we have is access control list, ACL access. We have something called fine-grained. ACL access. There are two types of access control that we have. Okay, in the controlling of the access in the GCP buckets. Okay, the similar concept you have available in Azure also, if you remember correctly. ACLs can be defined to control the lower level of access, right, by using SAS tokens or by using ACL itself in Azure. And the RBAC access control also can be defined at the bucket level or at the container level, right? That is by using access keys or by using the managed identity and all, we can control the access at the higher level also in the Azure side also. The similar concept is applicable here also. We'll deal about it. The one single upload, how much data we can go and upload is 190 plus TB in our Azure side. Here it is 5 TB only as a single object upload. The pricing and the performance, how do we calculate? How do we use it efficiently? Right? Basically, how much data we are going to store, how much volume of data that we are going to store, how frequent we are going to retrieve the data from the bucket, right? And what type of replication we are going to do. These three concepts affects the costing of our bucket storage, right? So basically, the quantity of storage plus the retrieval of data plus the replication. These three will affect the cost of using the data in the bucket, right, in general. So this part we are going to see in detail in the even in the interview discussion also, because this plays a very important role in terms of, like addressing some of the cost effectiveness. How do you brought in your cloud project, right? This is not only applicable for GCP, it is commonly applicable for Azure also. Azure also have the same kind of concept, right? How much volume of data you are storing, the cost incurred accordingly. How frequent you are going to retrieve the data, whether you are storing it in a cold storage, archival storage, or hot storage, accordingly. Whether you are going to replicate in a zonal or geolocation or like local, accordingly the cost will be varying in terms of managing the cost for storing the data in the cloud storages, right? Similar thing is applicable for GCP also. Okay, so in that aspect of comparing with GCP and Azure, right, first of all, what are the storage tiers that we have in maybe we'll go with storage tier first of all. What are the different storage tiers that we have in Azure, guys? Storage tiers. What are the different storage tiers that we can store our data in Azure with respect to the like our Azure ADLS or blob data store, right? Hot storage, cool storage. We have something called cold also. You can least bother. And we have one more called archival. Or we can say hot, cool, cold, archival. 4 types of storages are there. So one more premium storage is there that you can leave it. It's specifically companies can ask for. Okay, 4 types of storages we have in Azure. Similarly, in GCP also, we have the same 4 types of storage. Similarly, in GCP also, the literal 4 types of storage we have as well. So we have something like a nearline storage, cold line storage, or standard storage, nearline storage, cold line storage, and archival storage we have. Okay, so standard, nearline, cold line, archival. Similar, as like how we had for Azure. So we can go and compare them over here, even in our site also. So here we have hot, cool, cold, archival, right? So hot means very frequent access. Continuously you may access. Cool means once in a month period of time. Or cold means once in a quarter. Archival means once in a, like a quarter here, up to a year. Whereas here, we have one more category created. Standard is for very frequent data access, like a hot line access. Near line, it's like a cool storage access, which is nothing but as like 30 days once access. And cold line, the cold what we had in our Azure also, right? Similar way, 90 days once access or yearly once access, archival tier. Here in Azure, yearly once if you go, then you go with archival tier. Otherwise, go with cold tier. Cold tier is equal to archival tier in GCP, sorry, in Azure. So we have this comparison of the tires over here as well, right? Or you can compare it here itself in our Azure and GCP. Hot, cool, and archive. 30 days, 180 days. Here the archival we are going to have as what? 1 year. 1 year up to. So accordingly, the cost varied. The way how do we access the data? Almost similar. Very frequently we access the data, then store it in standard. Nearline, some data that we are going to access once in a month period of time, monthly report that we are going to generate, those data we can keep it in nearline. Cold line, like once in 3 months we are going to access. Quarterly we are going to access. Or yearly, the year regulatory reports that we are going to generate. Where we are going to maintain some banking customer information where regulatory report of 10 years we have to maintain. As a replacement for a tape drives, we can use archival storage like this. So the cost effectiveness and performance will come with how long you are going to store, how frequent you access the data, standard or nearline or cold line. We have the respective features available. With me, guys. So all you have to recall, if you are going with GCP interviews means you have to remember, okay, standard, nearline, cold line, archival. You remember, I asked this question in quiz some time ago, right? The answers are correct, but I asked it for Azure this question, nearline, cold line, and archival. But actually, Azure has something like a hot storage or cool storage or cold storage or archival storage. Whereas here, standard, rather than hot, we have standard. Rather than cool, we have nearline. Rather than cold, we have same cold. Archival, same. Only standard and nearline varies in GCP and Azure. The days, how long it is going to store, standard and nearline are similar. Cold line and archival varies. That hot is hot, nearline is 1 month, same. Nearline and cool is same. Cold is the quarterly data, 90 days data. Both are same. Archival only, we have what? It's not about 365 days. It's about 1 quarter in Azure. Here, it is 365 days, 1 year, yearly data. Archival, we have a more longevity for GCP. For Azure, it is not like that. Are you with me in this thing? Similar concept of, we call it a storage class here in our GCP, whereas in Azure, we call it a storage tires. Here, we call it a storage tires. Right, guys? So that's what I mentioned here, nearline, cold line, archival, like that and all. Archival and all. Isn't it half year, which is 180 days in Azure archival tier? Yeah, Azure it is 180 days. Yes, I told it as like quarterly, right? No, it is half year, and whereas in the cold tier we have quarterly. That is correct one. Cold tier we have quarterly. Archival is half year. Yes. I mean half of 365, right? Yes. Okay. And we have something like replication also in GCP. So what is the replication that we have in Azure, guys? What are how many number of replications that we have in Azure? How many number of the storage locations are the replications that we can use it in Azure? So LRS, I can say, local replication. Then, yes, ZRS, zonal replication, 4, right? Zonal replication. Then we have geo replication, GRS. Then GZRS, geo zonal replication. Like this, something like this, you remember? Local. Within the data center, the data will be copied in a local. Or within our zone, across multiple availability zones, the data will be copied, ZRS. Or across the regions, different regions, the data will be copied. Region 1, region 2, one region and another external region, it will be copied. And the regional data copy will happen, and within the local also the or zone also the data copy will happen. Geo and zonal replication also will happen. So these are all the replications that we have available in our Azure side. Whereas in the GCP side, we have pretty direct replication. Local replication we have here also. We have regional replication. Regional means kind of local replication. Within the different regions, the data, within the single region, the data can be stored across multiple zones. The kind of a zonal replication you can call it as. And the geo replication we have in GCP also with dual region or multi-region. Okay. So there is something called regional, dual region, multi-regional. So you can see regional means within the same region. Dual region means there are pair of regions are there. If I take India, right, we have Mumbai and Delhi. So within Mumbai and Delhi, the data copy will happen. Like this, the dual region can happen. And multi-region means across US or Europe or Asia, across multiple regions, the data copy will happen. But how the cost effectiveness will occur here is, regional is very least cost. Multi-region is the next least cost. That means it will be more than regional, but less than dual region. Dual region is something more special type of replication that Google offers. Google will cost it more actually. So what is the costliest replication in Google Cloud is dual region. Why? Because the data replication that happens in it using turbo replication feature in dual region. So dual region is something very much special. So we have some pair of regions that already Google have chosen. Within that region, they have maintained a high-speed network. So what they will do, they'll offer us 200 Gbps per second, 200 GB of data per second can be moved between one region to another region for replication purpose in dual region. But whereas in multi-region, only 50 Gbps speed. Because of that, Google is charging lesser cost. The multi-region is higher than regional but lower than dual region. So the cost will be captured in what aspect? Regional means least cost, because within the region I'm going to copy the data across the zones. Multi-region means that is the next least cost. First regional, if I'm going to get the charge for regional, which is going to be, for example, $1 per GB, let's assume. For multi-region, it is going to be $2 per region, $2 per GB. Whereas the dual region is going to cost us $3 per GB. Like this, the cost will be varied based on the type of replication that we are going to use, the location type that we are going to use. So we can say the lowest price is regional. The higher than regional is multi-region. The highest price than any regional or multi-regional is dual region. So dual region we can enable for a specific cases, like where if you wanted to have the data replicated and safeguarded in two different regions, right, which is having already a dual pairing created. They already have a like high-speed replication, high-speed networks and all created. Not all the regions can be used as a dual regions. So what we'll do tomorrow, we'll go and understand how to use a dual region, how do we set the dual region to copy the data, how to set the multi-region to copy the data and all. We'll go and see tomorrow in our exercise here. So how do you go and set the, like a replication? How do you go and set the permissions and all? We'll see. So I'll use something like a placement option. In the US itself, I wanted to store the data in a dual region. In the US West 1 and US West 2, I want to store. In Asia South 1 and South 2, I want to store, because already they have these two regions enabled as a dual region. Whereas if I store the data just by saying, hey, store it into Asia, store it in US, like this, when I say, they can choose whatever the multiple region they want to replicate this data. If I don't choose anything, I choose a particular region, then it is a regional replication, pretty direct. So what are the types of replication we can use? We can use it accordingly like this. The commands at the command side, we can use what type of replication. US means in the US region, You store anywhere, I don't bother. In the US alone, or in Asia alone. Or I will mention the dual region, so it will go and copy only within these two regions, but which is the very highest, cost. So if I go with regional, it can replicate the data across multiple availability zones that we have. Three zones. If I have, it will go and copy the data to the three zones. So we'll try to understand this network, right? I'll talk about the zones and regions and other concepts, what we already discussed in Azure also, but very quickly we'll discuss about this. So you'll get a concept of what is zones, regions and all. You can able to recall that once again. Okay. And we'll go with networking and compute tomorrow, and we'll close this core cloud engineering uh, with all these activities what you are performing today, guys. Okay. So we'll close this and we'll enter into our BigQuery platform mostly from day after tomorrow. Okay. Any questions, team? So we will go and implement this and see tomorrow this replication or whatever this concept and all, right? The location type or the storage classes and all, life cycle management. Some of these storage related concepts we'll go and again revisit. In Azure we did some other way. In GCP we are going to do it in some other way, but concept remains same. Both has the same concept. That you guys have to consider very importantly than anything else. Don't learn it as a new concept. Okay, that is a very important factor. Yes, team. Anything else or anything to discuss? Otherwise, we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Still, I'm slowly getting recovered. Yesterday, despite I was started working, but I was mostly sleeping. Okay, I still not able even to wake up. Today, I just got a bit delayed to wake up for the session, and then I quickly get ready and came uh, to the desk. Fortunately, I'm able to recall even GCP, all these concepts and all. Despite I have taken the sessions 1 year ago, right? I'm able to recall. I did not go through even any of this and sitting in front of you, but still I'm able to recall. So the thing is, you don't forget anything, okay? If you learn something strategically, you don't forget anything. You can able to recall the things very quickly. Okay, so don't think like you may be forgetting the things. Okay, that's very important, guys. Okay, fine. Anything else, team? Okay, if not, then catch you guys by tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, team. Thank you all. Bye, guys.